All right, guys. Welcome to a special live training. Today is going to be a live training about building a set it and forget it digital payment business, right? So, if this is your first time attending one of our live trainings, maybe you saw an advertisement and said, "Hey, who's this guy talking about? There's this passive income business out there." What I want you to do is comment live below. Comment live. So, number one, the reason why is so I can actually see who's actually engaged because we'll have a Q&A section after. But the other thing is also going to be that you get tagged. It's actually really cool. So we host this on YouTube. Once in a while, we'll do it inside of our premier actual community. But as I start dropping gems, as I start dropping Q&A answers, what ends up happening is you're not going to write it down. Let's be realistic. You forget about it. And then you talk to a business owner in the future, like, wait a second, I could have swore we talked about this. And at that point, that's when you go back to your notifications and you're able to go back to it also, right? So see you over here. I'm seeing Kimbo Slice. What's going on? Awesome. Cool. So with that being said, if you're watching the replay, because I'll probably try to post a replay. Last time it didn't work, but we'll try to send it to you also. So if you want to get a copy of the replay, make sure you copy replay below also, just so I know, number one, you're watching it, you get a tag also, and we can send you a personal message after too. All right. So for today's actual live training, super excited. It's actually going to be pretty good. So let me see if I can make this a little bigger for you guys. Pop this bad boy open right over here. All right. So essentially, we're going to talk about a few different things, guys. We're going to talk about the basics of the specific business model itself, which, I mean, to be frank, I don't think anyone is even talking about this yet. Mark my words, it's December 23, 2025. There will be people talking about this in January, February, probably April. They're going to see a lot more people pop up, but you're going to know exactly where you found out about this first, right? So this is what we actually call the set it and forget it digital payment business, right? And I added a little secret at the end, okay? Because you know me, I was in law enforcement. We'll talk about this in a second. But basically, we say secret because there's a specific method you reach out to actually target businesses right now. No one's talking about. I actually just had a mastermind call with a lot of our clients across the U.S., some in Thailand, Southeast Asia, Europe, etc. And I was like, hey, this is one of those things universally across the world right now that it's just not really talked about. We're getting involved in the crypto hype and this and that and this, and you realize, wait a second, this is like one of those untapped opportunities. And that's why I'm excited to actually bring this to you today, right? So for today's agenda, we're going to break down a few different things. Super simple. I like to have a logical flow on exactly what we do, what we teach, so that way you know exactly what you need to do to be successful. So we're going to break down business startup on easy mode. Very simple, exactly what you need to do to make this happen. We cover what we call scaling secrets. And what that means is exactly what you need to do on your own or with us, because we can help you out also on how to scale this. And then the 2026 sprint, because it's literally around the corner. In 8 days, in less than 8 days, it's a brand new year. So we want to get in as soon as possible for this business. So if you're excited and you're like, hey, let's freaking rock. Let's get this thing going. I'm not waiting until 2026. I want you to comment 2025 below. All right. Now, with that being said, I think we have to send a text message out because I don't know if it actually went out. I am getting some notifications that maybe it didn't. So we're going to do this. Now, with that being said, guys, I'm super excited just because I do know this is a topic that is dear to my heart. I'm a crypto geek when it comes down to it. Now, I want to make sure that you guys get taken care on this also, right? So before I actually start, before we break this down, got a little bit of, I'm going to say a life lesson. It's more of a business lesson, something I learned from going from not even zero, but negative all the way up to multi seven figures. Because I look back because I mean, realistically, in a few days, I'm able to take my father to Dubai. So if you guys are familiar with the UAE, I'm able to do that specifically. A few other opportunities that are afforded to me, and it really didn't start magically. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. Literally grew up with like food stamps and all that good stuff, right? So what I want to talk about before we even start talking about the business, and this goes into just business mentality, is speed. This is probably one of the least talked about things in business. There's always, oh, get funding, do this, do that, do that, all these fancy little hacks. I'm telling you from a guy who was dead stupid. Like I literally joined the military at the age of 18 because there's like nothing else. Didn't go to college, gone to law enforcement, blue collar jobs, dead end jobs, and here I am years later. I'm in San Francisco, California right now, staying at a very nice hotel, traveling across the world, rental properties, all this good stuff. And it's not this fancy life that happened. It was literally due to speed. So there needs to be speed in decisions. there needs to be speed in business, and there also needs to be speed in pivoting. And this is probably it's a sad thing to have to say, and it's scary sometimes because you make mistakes. I was just talking to a friend of mine, business owner, doing very well, multi-million dollar business. He was talking about some old partnership I had that just didn't work out. And obviously lost a lot of money, had like, retail this, retail that, and it just didn't work out. But it was a lesson over the course of like 8 years because like, wow, if that didn't happen years ago, I would not be where I'm at today. So there's speed in pivoting to a different direction also, if necessary. I don't wish this upon you, but you have to understand sometimes this needs to happen. So there's basically two types of person, right? And I've really boiled this down. If you know me, a lot of my team members, people I've worked with, clients over the years, they're like, man, you really like to give analogies. There's two types of person. This is what I found. Persons, if you're in court, they say persons, not people. I don't know why. But there's two types of persons, right? There is the thinker, and then there is the action taker. So person number one, which we call the thinker, they're deliberate, always with everything they do, like very, very tactical in what they do. They take quote unquote time with their decisions. And what I mean by that is they usually second guess everything. And it's not in a bad way, just to be clear. Second guessing things, I had to do it as a professional, as a cop. I might get killed if I go through that door the wrong way. So you're always second guessing the decisions. And then from there, sometimes days, meaning a decision that was being done in a day, ends up being weeks. From weeks, it turns to months. And when they actually take action, they're going to feel very confident. I was this person before. I was this exact same person. Like I would just be very deliberate in everything I did, and I would just take my time. I'd think about it. I would go through Wikipedia, the old Wikipedia, when you could just put in whatever you want in there, go down the rabbit hole, Reddit, etc. Before they had ChatGPT. And that type of person, which was get them before, cannot be convinced otherwise. Like ego through the roof. I am right. I've done my due diligence, deliberate, everything. So usually, like I mentioned, your ego kicks in. Now, here's the thing. Person number two is actually the action taker, right? And when I say the action taker, what I mean is to be very clear, they're not irrational, right? It's not like emotional decisions, things like that. They're just very quick to make decisions. So they actually interpret data very quickly. And what I mean by that is like the same person, get them, old self would be like, all right, let me take my time, read this, etc., whatever. And then this other person's like, all right, cool, I have enough to make a decision. They usually move very quickly. That's why we talking about speed. And when it comes down to it, they let things break. And what I mean by this is they're not afraid to make mistakes because they don't look in the rearview mirror. Think of like when you're driving down the road and you're just really concerned, like what's going on, who's behind me. Instead, they're actually just going through the side view mirror. And what I mean by that, difference wise, rearview mirror, what's going on behind me? Side view is I'm only looking at the direction I'm going to go into, not what happened in the past, because it's the past. Who cares? So the question you ask yourself is, out of these two people, the action taker and the thinker, who typically has success? I actually want to know. There's going to be a quick little poll. All right. Just want a quick little poll on who you think typically has success with this. Comment action if you think it's the action taker, or comment think if you think it's the thinker. All right. We're not talking about like philosophers, but we're saying like the actual thinker. All right. So let me see some responses pop up over here, and we'll go pop this open. And I usually get, I've talked about this a few times with like individuals personally, and usually the answer people think is like the thinker, but actually it's going to be the action taker. And when I say that, the reason I bring this up, it's actually really simple. Okay. The reason I bring this up is when it comes down to it, they're able to take 2 to 3 times more action in the same time period as the person that's thinking about it. And here's the reason why. I'm going to break down like some simple math. Let's just say it's day one. They did 3 actions, right? Whether it's like 3 businesses to reach out to, 3 messages to send, whatever. Essentially, that's day one. Day number 2, we double that, 6 actions, right? These different steps, whatever that has taken place. Day number 3, we're multiplying this at this point, right? 9 times as much. The 4th day, 12 times as many actions. And day 5 and on, you start realizing it's completely exponentially increasing, like how much volume you're getting out in the same time as the person that's thinking about it. Then you have the actual thinker. The thinker themselves, day 1, they're thinking about it, right? They're like, all right, I got to have some options, plan B, etc. The second day, they're usually analyzing it or have this, etc. The third day, they're usually comparing. saying, all right, well, there's this option, that option, this option, right? Think of it as like you're setting up your flights, right? You're buying flights online and you're like trying to figure out which one. And you notice the price increases all of a sudden because you've waited too long. And then day four, usually asking around, hey, have you heard about this? Reviews, testimonials, this. You're just really taking your time with the decision. And then day number five, you're usually resetting because, like, you know what? I don't know about this action, but I'm going to think about something else. And you're trying to game plan over again. Again, just to be clear, I'm saying do not be irrational. I just want to be very clear with this. Do not be irrational, right? This is sometimes misinterpreted. You say go, go, go. Don't want to be like this, right? But when it comes down to it, success favors speed. And what I mean by this is every entrepreneur you talk to, every entrepreneur that actually successful, right? Not the quote unquote entrepreneur in the bio and social media that really do nothing. The people that are actually in business, they want to be successful. They're working towards it. They say the same thing. In addition to that, you have to remember if you're in the US, literally, you're incentivized to take risk. Think about it this way: the president of the United States went bankrupt. The president of the United States, it doesn't matter what politics you believe in, it doesn't matter. In fact, every major business owner, and when I say major, I'm talking about major businesses, you start realizing they failed. You listen to Elon Musk, you listen to Sam Altman, the, literally, basically the main man with the plan with ChatGPT, OpenAI. Look into his history of his failed businesses. And you start to realize, oh crap, they're not just a success story magically that I see. I'm just aware of them now because they're successful. But when it comes down to it, they failed quickly. And what I mean by that is they took so much massive action, as we call it, or so much speed with their action that they were able to make that mistake in the same time that you were thinking about it or I was thinking about it. And I'm telling you from experience of being old Getum, which was the thinker. Always like, I have the best plan, this, secondary, tertiary, like all this good stuff. And then you realize, wait a second, I've spent so much time thinking about it. The guy that's literally just like, whatever, I'm going to do it is outpacing me. And it's not that I'm saying like I'm smarter than that person, but I realize, what am I doing? Why am I taking this long? So the question you got to ask yourself is this: is 2025 going to be your year? You're probably thinking like, get them, it's December 23rd, but the holidays, again, Christmas is coming up, New Year's Eve, New Year's. Or are you going to be the person that says, well, those are just extra days. I'd rather maybe sacrifice, quote unquote, this year to have triple to quadruple the year next year. So if that's you and you're like, hey, you know what? I know for sure 2025 is going to be my year. I'm going to finish out strong. What I want you to do is comment action below. Comment action. And the reason why is because number one, it's accountability. You're going to see your comment. You check back on this YouTube video a year from now, and you're like, oh crap, I really should have done that. Or you're going to check back and say, wow, I can't believe 2025 was that year that I really kickstarted what I wanted to do. Great. So with that being said, let's talk about this, guys. What's what we call the 2026 digital payment revolution, right? And I'm in the Bay Area, so I had to get my Blue Bottle, right? I'm not sponsored by Blue Bottle, but Oakland PD was where I was at. We used to always drink this. So speaking of which, who am I? So probably who is this Indian, black, Colombian, Cubano looking guy on the internet tell me what to do? Who are you, Montel? All right. So all jokes aside, my name is Getum Tekla. I'm founder of Dividend Shift, right? And so essentially, I went from blue collar to 8-figure entrepreneur. And when I say 8 figures, just so you guys be clear, that means $833,333 per month, right? That's the minimum. Usually you're talking about $1 million a month, right? So the reason I say this is because ultimately, I'm not the smartest person whatsoever. Just if you know me, I like to think and all that. Then I changed to more action, but there's just some small things that had to happen. And it really took a lot of money to get here. And I'm not saying, hey guys, invest $300,000 into like a black hole to get here. No, you want to learn from other people's mistakes. But just a little bit of the background, there's multiple seasons, I like to call it, right? Season of learning, season of earning. Essentially, join the United States Marine, age of 18, realize, college is probably not for me. Getting, $40,000 a year student loans, getting a nice car and all that, that's just not my life. I don't think that's right for me. Got out of the Marine Corps, got into some dead-end jobs because, when it comes down to it, transferable skills of shooting an M16A4 to, civilian life doesn't really translate. So got into debt. I don't know how, but this is just the funniest thing. I always talk about this, and people like sometimes don't believe me. And I got to find these credit card statements, but I was like $75,000 in credit card debt. And you're probably wondering, how do you get that? I was like, if you pay the minimum, that $39 a month or whatever, they'll keep extending money to you because you're just an indentured servitude. So it got to a point where I had to cut the lease, estranged from the family, bad relationship, etc. Blah, 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 blah. Ended up sleeping in my nice little Nissan Altima, 1999, 6 speed, no, it was 5 speed, leather seats, back of the car, 24-hour fitness showers, all that good stuff, right? So you're probably thinking like, man, boohoo story, bad life. Well, things were kind of just going worse and worse and worse, right? Until I ran into a police officer. And it wasn't in a bad way, but essentially, at a grocery store, we call them sheriff's deputies here, but essentially ran to him, talked to him, like, hey, this is, it's like the spotlight was on him. It felt like, I had this light on him. I was like, hey, man, how's the career? This, etc. And finally, he's like, you should probably just apply. Why not become a police officer yourself? And it was just a pivotal thing. Like, what are you talking about? So, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. But you fast forward a few months later, and it really hit me because nothing changed. And some of you guys have been in the same spot. Maybe you have a little epiphany, got a little journal, some ideas, somebody says something to you, and you say, now I'm going to make the change. And then from there, guess what happens? Well, nothing happens. And you're like, wow, time elapsed, but nothing else changed. So finally that line hit me. It was just ringing in the back of my head. Like, you should be a cop, you should be a cop, you should be a cop. I was like, you know what? F it. So I figured, why not? I figured right now. And the lesson in this is sometimes your decisions require a little bit of F it, right? And there's a mathematical formula, right? I wrote it down here, all right? So the mathematical formula is your success is directly proportional to how many times you say F it. And most business owners will say the same thing. There's probably some of those decisions where you're like, yeah, I broke the rules on that and it worked out. But then you say, don't follow me. Don't ever break the rules because you're trying to think of it like from a kid's perspective. But it's not the case. Sometimes you just have to say, fuck it. So started applying in different departments. It's like, screw it. Applied like every department you think of. Got denied by almost every single one. Like, you're too young. You've drunk, you're drinking and driving. You drank underage. When I was in the military at 18, obviously drinking with some other Marines. But it's just all these different reasons. So I figured, I guess it's not going to work out until I finally got hired in Oakland, of all places. I actually denied them. Then I went back, got hired in. So if you're not familiar with Oakland, California, it's a little different. It's a little unique of a city, right? A lot of activity. It's kind of like Chicago, Detroit, right? Or, Bronx and New York before it got better. But $90K a year salary, things are good. You're feeling like, hey, everything's going to be okay. Top percentage salary in the US, even though the Bay Area is more expensive, etc. But I almost lost my job. And the reason why is because, bad examples. I was still around, the wrong people, relationships wise, etc. And I'm in the police academy. Things didn't work out. So basically almost got terminated. So got a second chance. And the lesson here is timing is everything. I look back, and if I got hired at the time, I'm telling you right now, you guys would probably seen me somewhere else. It wouldn't be on a webinar. It would be maybe on some newspaper or something like that in a bad way. So I had to start all over. Essentially, start the police academy over. It's like 6 months, nothing too crazy, a little embarrassment, etc. But got to the point where it's like, you know what? Just got to start over. And you got to ask yourself this, right? How many of you been at that spot where you're like, it's just time to start all over? It's just time. It's like, forget. And I'm not saying like rip the Band-Aid off. I'm saying you just need a pivotal change. What I want you to do is comment timing below. Comment timing. If you're saying, hey, at some point I've been at that point where it's like, hey, I just need to really pivot the direction. So you fast forward a bit, right? Hired full-time Oakland. You see me looking nice and young. Obviously, it's a Long Island city. Working my ass off. I'm literally working every single day, 95 hours a week, just trying to save. Literally live in a basement in the hood. You see the picture over here. I was just in the hood. I was like, I don't care. I'm paying $1,000 a month for rent, $47 a month for insurance. I have a 98 Tacoma. I am not spending one extra penny because I just had to get out of the debt. I said, I do not want to be strangled by this debt. So finally hit that day where I paid everything off. Finally made that last personal loan payment, credit card payment, and it's like there's zero. But then you get to a point, you're like, well, what do? I don't know what to do, because what ends up happening is you learn one thing and you think, okay, awesome, this is going to lead to my success, but it's not the case, right? It's the same reason why people that win the lottery, they don't ever be successful. You know why? Because they just got luck and they knew only really basic stuff. They weren't able to actually learn the skills that were necessary to build it. So I still lived in the hood. I had the save mentality. I was like, this is all I know. I'm just going to save more money. But at this point, I knew the 9 to 5 wasn't enough. A lot of you guys are in the same boat. Yeah, that one investment, maybe that one career. It's like, even if you're a lawyer, federal judge, or whatever, you're like, this is great, but it's not enough. Especially nowadays with the advent of social media, you start realizing how much potential is out there. So at this point, I said, you know what? I'm just going to try something. And you guys are probably in the same boat. I was just talking to somebody earlier. They tried a lot of different businesses, got bamboozled, unfortunately, with a few different things like YouTube, things like that. It is what it is. I was in that spot the exact same way. Tried multiple things like FBA, drop shipping, Turo, get arounds, trading, some rental arbitrage, like all these different methods that I kept seeing online and keep getting, bamboozled with. And I just kept failing. And finally got to the point where, I lost a little over $50,000 on this one business that I thought for sure would work. And I'm at the point now, I'm like, you know what? F it. This ain't for me. Right. I was just literally on the verge of quit. And so the lesson here is that you cannot be afraid to pivot quickly. You can't, because when it comes down to it, it happens. It is what it is. How many of you guys have been in a similar situation? Literally, nothing seems to work. You hit, I call this the rule of three, but you get hit with the rule of three. And this is, if you're in business, you know this. And if you got kids, you know this also. All right. I'm not talking about 3 years old. What I'm talking about is three things bad always happen at once. It's never, oh, it's raining outside, I forgot my jacket. It's raining outside, I forgot my jacket. Ketchup flies on your shirt. Your kid trips in the mud. And then the dog starts running and jumps on the sofa. And you're like, what is going on? It's the exact same thing in business, right? You get hit with the rule of three. Employee quits, all of a sudden you get sued, something, it doesn't matter, right? All these things hit you at once. The lesson being is this: your motivation's not alone. Your motivation alone is not enough. Some people hit you with the woo woo wah wah nonsense. Telling you right now, your motivation is not going to be enough. You're going to quit if you're just focusing on motivation. It's what we learned in the military too. There has to be a mission. You have to have a mission. And the reason why is because you're going to wake up sometimes and you're being annoyed as shit. Things are not going right. This happened, etc. And then you get that one text message from the friend. You're like, come on, right? The rule of three. But you have to have a mission because you can get past that. So if you're clear on your mission, you're saying, you know what? I want a Lamborghini. That's why I'm doing this, right? Or you're saying, I know I want to get out of generational debt, right? Hopefully you're not in there, but it is what it is. Or you're saying, I'm not okay with just having a 401k or this investment account. I want to make additional income. Screw the corporation, screw the career. I want you to comment mission below. Comment mission. And the reason why is because you have to keep yourself accountable. Because if you're able to have that North Star, that forward facing mission, I guarantee you right now, you'll be successful. It may not be with this. You may say, you know what? This isn't for me. Awesome. But at least you'll be on the path towards whatever that vehicle is to create what I like to call set it and forget it income. But essentially it's F you, buddy. So at this point, you got to say, like, have the education, you have the foundations, etc. Like, this is what I call like the season of learning. That's when you actually enter into the season of earning. Okay. So we have learning, which is like, you're falling on your face a few times, almost like, you're starting off on a new sport or something like that. And then we enter the season of earning, where you start focusing on like skill, you start focusing on scaling, all that good stuff. So at this point, I determined, you know what? I just got to start investing into something very simple. What ended up happening is, I tell the story, but I ran into this guy. He had a few different businesses, all that good stuff, right? But when it came down to it, essentially, he broke this down. He's like, I just have these like boring things that make me money. And it kind of rewired the way I thought about things, because society nowadays pushes us to say, oh, you have to have this, you have to have that. Like, you got to have this fancy business. There's this tech company, this AI startup. But then you realize most of the money that was made to actually invest in those businesses actually was made elsewhere. It's that parking lot. It's maybe been a skating rink, a simple like taqueria that ends up being like a taco truck that leads to another taco cart that leads to the actual restaurant. So I had to make a complete change and said, I'm just going to focus on what I call residual income sources. You got to think to yourself, like, boring businesses, as we call them, right? ATMs, credit cards, all that good stuff, right? So tried a few different things, had some arbitrage. So I actually invested into crypto, a lot of gold back then too. Like, this is years ago. And the main focus, obviously, made a lot of decent amount of money on those, but the main focus was having minimal time involved. That was like my biggest thing, because if I can just minimize the time involved, I can think and find the best opportunity in the future too. And that's all I focus on. So the biggest thing, which seems kind of small right now, but I was able to just ignore the white noise, because this is what's going to happen, right? After this, you're going to hit with like 96 ads. There's going to be somebody talking about selling like Etsy toys, and somebody talking about, starting a t-shirt printing business, and selling trading cards. And like, you're just going to hit with everything, because you're what we're called in market, meaning that you're looking for something. So everybody just starts bombarding you. It's like white noise, right? You're going down in Japan, in Tokyo, and you're like, I can't get away from like these noises. But you have to be able to ignore the white noise. This is what happened, where I was able to say, this new idea, nah. If it's new, I don't want to be a part of it, because it's just distracting me from what I really need to focus on. So all I focused on was increasing cash flow. That's it. Fast forward a few years later, because you're probably thinking, oh, it was overnight. It was not, guys. It's not a get rich quick. Fast forward, able to quit my career off of some principles, because a lot of things were happening at the time. Helped thousands of people build scale, maintain. They're boring businesses. Scaled, 2 other companies, was able to launch this, and now have the only digital payment business for entrepreneurs. Only one, just so you know. And like I said, come 2026, I'm sure people will pop up, but it doesn't matter because usually it's kind of like this. Would you rather have the iPhone or would you rather have a knockoff? So, why does this even matter? Well, when it comes down to it, your action today begins with your next chapter. And what I mean by that is when it comes down to it, you have to take action. You have to speed things up. So, if you're ready for that season of earning, as we call it, comment now. I want you to comment now because when it comes down to it, number one, it's beginning the training. So you can actually remember this, but it's accountability to make sure you actually be successful. So, with that being said, let's talk about this. This is what I call setup on easy mode. And what I mean by that is this is a digital payment business, right? So, what I want to do first is actually get us on the same page because I've actually been getting a lot of messages on Instagram. And if you guys don't follow me, it's getemtekla at Instagram. But kind of like really misinterpreting the business. So I want to make sure we're on the same page for the foundations. So essentially, let's start with a few, I guess we say Q&As, right? So there's some questions, and I just want to kind of get an idea to guide future training also. So the first question is this, right? And I've gotten this question a few times. This business model, it exists everywhere already. True or false? Do you think this business model, which is digital payment business, exists everywhere already? Comment true or comment false. And I'll give about 20 seconds because usually there's a delay on comments just so I can get these two. See this right over here. All right, I'm seeing the comments popping up now. Malzer, 1918, false. Uusella, true. We'll see a few more comments in a second after. Well, ultimately, it's going to be false. This does not exist. If you go to businesses and they don't accept digital payments or crypto payments yet, it doesn't exist yet. So you start doing like some basic math in your head. You go to 10 different businesses and all of them say no. You start realizing there's an opportunity, right? Now the next question is, well, there's actually people, right? Are there actual people there waiting to pay with crypto? I want you to comment true or false. If you believe it's true that there's people, true. If you're like, nah, there's no way. Who the heck is gonna pay with crypto? No worries, just comment false. So I can get an idea just to see exactly what your guys' thoughts are on that specifically. So seller processing payments, yes. Okay. I'll give you guys a second to actually answer. And the answer is going to be true, meaning that there are actually people there waiting. So I would challenge you guys to look this up. Steak and Shake, which is like a big burger franchise, not as good as In-N-Out. If you're from the West Coast, you know what I'm talking about, right? No offense, guys. I don't want to get like sued by Steak and Shake now, but they give an example. They decided to start accepting Bitcoin payments, and they said, "Hey, we 2 stores that are equal. We open them both open. The one that accepts crypto payments, 15% more than the one that doesn't." So you start to think to yourself, interesting. If that's burgers, now imagine all the other hot business types there are that are available to you. So the other question, I get this a lot. I don't know if it's something like my copywriter wrote or something like this takes tens of thousands of dollars to start. What do you think? True or false? If this is yes, for sure it takes this much, or no, it does not take this much. True or false? Answer is going to be false, all right? Because I see there's like a 20-second delay, so we get these in. False, right? It does not take that much. You can do it on your own, right? There's a few more, steps you have to do. We call it sweat equity, or you can have a team like us help you out, but essentially it doesn't take that much. Now, next question, going to be some of the biggest companies, right? I'm not just talking about payment companies, but the biggest companies are actually doing this when I'm talking about digital payments, crypto payments. True or false? What do you think? Is it going to be true, like it's already happening already, or it's going to be false? I want to get an idea of exactly what we think here, right? So give you guys a second, and we're getting some, it's been like a 50-50 I've noticed on these answers, but it's going to be true. Some of the biggest companies, talking about PayPal, Square, Walmart's redoing this. They actually own their own. There's a lot of companies doing it behind the scenes, setting up infrastructure, the architecture, all that good stuff. We have some crypto developers that are clients. They go to some of these conferences like, whoa, what the heck is going on? But this is true. Like the biggest companies are pivoting to this right now, right? Then we have this question, right? So this is going to be the last question, and Q&A. True or false? This is already saturated. True meaning you believe this is saturated. False meaning It is not. All right. So this business itself, the crypto payment business, digital asset payment business, it is actually saturated or not. It's a true request. Just want to get your guys' opinion to see what we got over here. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys too. Just got a comment to make it bigger. There we go. All right. So it's actually going to be false, meaning that I think there are maybe 5 to 10 different companies offering this right now, especially, well, as we do, nobody, but there are probably like a few different ones offering this. So it's not saturated whatsoever. Right. So what we're going to do is actually break this down, guys. We're going to keep this very, very simple and exactly like what this is specifically. So basically, what you're doing is this, right? You're going to have a device just like this, place at a business, right? It might be a smoke shop, it might be a taco place, it might be a burger spot, whatever it is. It's just a local business that you're used to. And then from there, you're going to have customers that say, hey, I want to pay in crypto, right? There's different methods to track them, etc. There's all these different things, but essentially that's what's happening. Then from there, that customer is just going to choose what crypto they want to pay in, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, USDC, USDT, whatever. The merchant themselves, they'll have that device and they'll say, okay, cool, $240 or $500, or an invoice like you're doing tree trimming, it's $1,047, or maybe it's a restaurant, right? And they give you a 20% tip, etc. We're just putting in the payment amounts. The customer then just scans their QR code just like this. From there, the merchant gets paid just like Apple Pay. They get the equivalent of cash because obviously, crypto goes up and down. So we count for that. You then earn a percentage off each transaction. It's very simple. It's actually very simple. So what's your method of profiting? Well, there's a few different ways, but the simplest method is just get more and more businesses. You have e-commerce stores, you have restaurants, you have gas stations, you have smoke shops, you have liquor stores, you have all these different businesses to target that aren't doing this. Simple and scalable business model requires minimal time. There's no competition yet because it's going to start popping up, but you start to see why this matters. But the real question always comes up. It's like, well, why does this even matter? Essentially, just like with any business, you got to make sure what the addressable market is what we like to call it. So what we're doing here is super simple. We're just stealing the exact same method that banks do, where they're charging you fees for everything, and we're just cloning it for crypto because it's an emerging industry. Like nobody knows about this. We're taking advantage. In fact, the original industry that we're talking about, which is normal credit card processing, I mean, it's a $100 billion a year industry. Like you're talking about those fees you pay on your credit card, the airport, the lounge, whatever. There's a lot of money being made off of that. And it's very small percentages. Think about it. Businesses get charged 2, 3, 4%. Somebody else is paying that fee. It's either the merchant or it's going to be the customer. But then what ends up happening is a shift, right? And when I say that, the reason I say this is because you start looking at some of these biggest businesses that are actually getting into this, right? You got like Square, you got Stripe, you got Square, you have PayPal, Coinbase, PNC Bank, Chase, like all these different banks and businesses getting into this for a reason. I'll put it this way, right? When it comes down to it, you might have the eye for a business, but when you have bigger businesses jumping in also, they also pay a lot of people for people to have that eye too. So you start realizing, well, okay, if big companies are switching, you got the government pushing this, the federal government, and there's less than 10% of people doing this. You're like, how do I fit in? Like, what's going on? What's the catch? Well, here's the problem. The problem is actually really simple. The merchants are unaware. Think of every business you've been to. Ask them, like, hey, can I pay in Bitcoin? Like, what are you talking about? They're looking at you like you're crazy because they just don't know yet. It's just like Apple Pay. Like, what do you mean you're going to pay with your phone? Are you crazy? Give me your credit card. And you fast forward to 2025, 2026, and it's just the normal. Most people don't even carry a wallet anymore. So the other thing is it wasn't available yet. When it came down to it, we've been pioneering this along with a few other companies to actually get this in as soon as possible because they see the arbitrage. So what ends up happening is this is a massive opportunity for you. Absolutely massive, because when it comes down to it, you have to ask yourself this: how many businesses have you been to that don't accept this? Right? Let me ask you this. I'll rephrase the question. How many businesses have you personally been to that have crypto payments? Just paste a number, whether it's 10, whether it's 5, whether it's 2, whether it's 3. I have an idea what the answer is going to be, but I really want to get your opinion on like how many people, how many businesses have you been to that have actually offered this specifically, right? So let's see what we got over here. Wait for some comments to pop up on the right because you see you guys watching, but it's a 0, Lazar 0, Sella 3. All right, so seeing a few, right? So The reason I say this is because you gotta ask yourself, like, why did this even stand out to you? Like, why? The fact that there's barely anybody. The reason why is because ultimately it's an opportunity. It is an opportunity because it's extremely rare. So what I want to do is come out of the beginner steps. Literally what you need to do to launch this business on your own, without us. And if you want to, like I mentioned, break down how that works, but essentially the things you need to do, right? So let's break down the foundations. We're going to power through this like the next 12 minutes. That's it. We're having a Q&A, guys, right? So essentially, what we start with is our business and our bank account. Super simple. You form a corporation, whether it's in the US, LLC, C Corp, S Corp, nonprofit if you want, etc. If you're in Canada, obviously you have your federal or your provincial corporation. Europe, it's different. England, it's different. In Colombia, your SAS, whatever. So we want to form that. Then we want to get our business bank account because ultimately, when it comes down to it, obviously we want to separate personal and business. There's a lot of different products you get as a business owner. You start realizing how the bank incentivizes you to do this also. Same thing with your government for taxes, right? And one little hack, guys, just so you know, one little hack is, this is the tax advice, but let's just say you invest $10,000 to start your business and you make $100,000 a year. You're able to write that off, which drops down your taxable income to 90,000, which means you actually keep 3 to 4K, right? So literally you decide, hey, do I want to pay the government or do I want to pay myself and my future self? So this is a little hack. Most people don't know about it, especially if it's just your own business that you're able to do, right? So we have that. So once we get our foundation, meaning our business or bank account, we get our actual EIN number or your federal number, whatever it's called, then you want to partner with the processor. The processor, all they do is they convert the actual crypto to cash, cash to crypto, crypto to cash, whatever. They are the ones that are that middleman that when that customer comes in and they say, hey, I want to buy this can, right? They pay their $11, they scan their QR code, there's a fee built in, they handle all that, and you're able to get paid by them percentage-wise, right? Super simple. From there, what you want to do is focus on location finding, right? When I say location finding, super simple. I say simple, not easy, because when it comes down to it, the way you want to think about this is there are businesses out there that want to do it. Now, how much time is it going to take you to actually do it? I was talking to a college student. He brought this up. He's like, hey, man, I'm super busy, got internships, etc. I said, hey, what we want to do is outsource some of this. So we want to just focus on the most important businesses, I say first, and then from there have different team members or companies or different services that find the locations for you, and then you're able to just sign them up, which is the needle moving activity, meaning that from all the things that can happen, you just focus on the ones that drive the biggest results. From there, we want to focus on equipment, meaning that you want to have obviously the most amount of equipment available, especially with business owners. Sometimes they want the fanciest thing. And then you want to actually understand the offers. And what I mean by that is like, hey, how do I structure it? How do I profit the most? A part of this is working with the right payment company. Because if you just work with Joe Schmo processing, which doesn't exist yet, but some of the bigger ones, what ends up happening is you're really locked into what you can do. So because of that, you're not able to be creative and sign up some of these deals. That's why you want to get creative and work with the right processor to do this. Then from there, what we do is we obviously focus on scaling. So when I say scaling, is super simple. There's two aspects. There's digital and in person. In person, have a conversation, talk to the merchant. Let's sign up. Let's rock. Digital, hey, you might be using the AirPods. You might be using, the internet. You might be using social media, send some Instagram DMs. But there's different ways to actually scale and find these businesses without just having to be in person, which, let's just be frank, in 2025 going into 2026, this is really what we want to focus on, right? So let's talk about, I call it like the 5K a month locations. And it's not saying you'll make this much, but let's just talk about with that number in mind, what we need to do to actually hit those numbers. So again, step one, like I mentioned, we knock out foundations. This would take you like 2 days. If it's taking you longer than this, you're working with the wrong team, or you just don't know what to do, which is not a big deal. From there, what we like to do is target the hottest locations, right? And so when I say target the hottest locations, what I'm referring to, super simple, is we look at what's going to produce the most revenue first. And if you want a list that breaks down, what I say are the best ones now, comment 15 below. Comment 15. I look at the top 15 businesses that we want to target for this specifically, right? So what we do is we target the hottest locations. And the reason why is because obviously they produce the most revenue first. We always focus on cash flow. And then from there, what ends up happening is we will actually be able to expand to more and more locations. Third thing, called step 3, is the referral network. So the referral network, super simple. The way I want to think about this is we look at efficiency. So instead of you just doing more action, I look at what's the one thing I can do that's going to lead to like 10 times coming back to me. And usually it's networking and revolving. So what I like to do is partner up with different like businesses, people, etc. What they'll do is they'll send me location leads, right? So they'll say, hey, you know what? I'm a tax accountant. I always have businesses that are asking for different unique ways to do this. I'll send them your way, but you can send me some tax referrals. So we want to build some type of referral network for that to happen specifically. And then from there, like I mentioned, we expand digitally, meaning that you have an online presence, usually a website, social media, CRMs, all that good stuff. But you want to have that set up so that way you can be super simple with this business too. Now, next step is cross selling. So when I say cross selling, what this means is this, right? You buy a burger, guess what happens? You need to buy some cheese, some bacon, and some patties, right? They're just complementary businesses. So in this space, like I mentioned, like the taxes, you might have maybe some CPAs or financial advisors. You're like, hey, some businesses. Well, naturally, if you're in payments, that happens. So usually the biggest cross sell you can do is going to be traditional payments like credit card processing and crypto. And the reason why is because ultimately they're just hand in hand. If somebody comes in to pay, it doesn't matter if they do credit cards or crypto. And as Visa, MasterCard, a few of these companies start to add more crypto backed like credit cards, you're going to realize, oh, I can benefit off both because I own both also. So there's no competition. You're just a monopoly, right? Imagine being the McDonald's, being the Walmart of the digital payments in your city. That's what we're looking at also. So we want to be able to offer both those things too for the business. And then from there, what we can do is start talking about residual income. And the reason I say this, I said we're going to power through this for the Q&A, guys. This is just straight educational session we're going to have today. The reason I say this is because I like to follow a few different principles when I'm scaling, okay? And what I mean by that is ultimately, this business is the same as like anything else, right? If you have a lawnmower business, right? You're actually cleaning lawns or cutting lawns, or if you have like a window washing business, et cetera. It's all the same principles that apply to this, okay? But there's a few rules you want to follow to make sure you have the best structured business, right? So, rule number one, this is long term, right? This is what I like to follow. Don't approach this with a get rich quick mentality. I have to bring this up, and the best part about saying this is it attracts the right people that are real serious entrepreneurs that have investments, etc. But essentially, like, don't approach this so I'm going to make 50K a month within a week. I've had this statement and like, hey, what else are you doing in life? Like, oh, I live in my car. I'm like, no disrespect because I was in that space for a little while, but that's not realistic, man. 50K a month within like the next few weeks. Come on, man. So we want to have realistic expectations, understand that this is a long-term business we build up that might lead to, more wealth building. It might lead to investments into other things, etc. But we have that mentality of like, all right, cool. I'm building up my portfolio to make this happen. The other thing is going to be time is always better than money, right? And I can't tell you how many times that I could have burned people in business easily. And to this day, we're like friends because it's like, you know what? When it comes down to it, ultimately, I'm more willing, and this is kind of goes into like relationships also, but I'm more willing to say, you know what? Instead of like going after this cheap deal and making a little more money, I'd rather maintain the relationship and actually save myself the time. And the reason is it's almost like dating the wrong person. Sometimes you get into these situations like, wow, that wasn't worth it. I just wasted so much more time that there's opportunity cost, meaning that that same time could have met 6 or 7, 8, 10, 15 more businesses, and you spent it with some BS relationship that you're like, this was a waste of time. The other part to this is the relationship aspect. So you don't want to burn people for that short-term profit. So it's like this balancing act. And I'm not trying to overcomplicate it, but the way you want to think about this is people loop back and they know other people. So let's say, for example, you talk to the smoke shop owner. You're like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna screw this guy, right? And I've seen this. I've seen people in the industry. They've done stuff like this. And guess what happens? You talk to some other business owners and like, oh yeah, you're so and so. I'm like, how do you know who I am? It's like, oh, Jeff told us. You're like, oh crap. It happens. So do not burn people for some short-term profit. It doesn't make sense. People that work with me, they know over the course of years, like, you know what, 4 years down the road, they want to work with me again because they know the relationship is always worth more than the short-term profit. Then from there, what we want to do is proof of concept. So what that means is if you don't believe this works, whatever, awesome. Go to the local businesses, see if they're interested, see if they'd actually want to sign up. Once they say yes, like, yeah, give me more info, this works, immediately take advantage of a team. There's a saying in the military, 2 is 1, 1 is none. Well, I say this for a reason because you can do everything on your own, but it's what we say, like operator-led businesses, it's just going to fail. When you're burnt out, things aren't going to work. So you want a team around you that's able to build it with you because number one, it's fun. You have great people around you. You enjoy looking forward to it. But second of all, other people get a profit too, and the business grows much faster. So the other thing is going to be scaling. When it comes down to it with scaling, the way you want to think about this is super simple, right? I always look at scaling as, hey, you can always scale too fast. And what I mean by that, very simply put, is you could try to go, 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 and things have to break, but really, when you think about it, it's like slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And what that means is, hey, I'm not running door to door to talk to people. It's like, all right, cool. These businesses are going to open on Sundays. This business is going to be probably super busy for Christmas. Let's just focus on these instead. Person one, which is like go, 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 so it's just failing. Person number two is like, how about we just take a step back, we slow down, and we'll be more successful. That's what actually happens with this. We want to focus on the scaling, but we always want to be efficient when we're doing it. Because what ends up happening is you spend more money and you lose anyway. So from there, what ends up happening is I always like to outsource the locations. And the reason I say this is because in this industry specifically, it just takes so much time. Talking to business owners, et cetera, it just takes a lot of time. So we want to make sure we're able to do this. So I'll usually have a team, multiple teams, different ways to do this, that I'm not just focusing on locations, because what ends up happening is it just takes so much time. I'm not able to grow the business anyway. So we want to outsource the actual boring part of the locations and handle the relationship part of the actual locations. And then from there, I always like to use technology now. I wasn't a big fan of this, but I figured this out is if you're not using technology, you're just going to fail, right? Whether it's Sora, whether it's ChatGPT, Manus, Sora, like it doesn't matter. You want to use technology to be able to grow this business, not more quantity of people working with you. So one of the best ways is going to be advertisements, just running ads. Very simple, set up a campaign, have businesses reach out to you because no one's offering this yet, and you can put yourself out there. And then from there, what I like to do is build a team, because at this point, I like to say autopilot. You have leads coming in, you have sometimes too many, so you're like, I don't know what to do. So you want to have that team around you that can actually take it and run with it also. And then from there, it's pretty big. Not important initially, but you'll start seeing the value in this. And I didn't really understand it. I was always an introvert until, had a mentor, had a friend, etc. But you want to maintain your online presence. And the reason I say this is because ultimately, if they don't know about you, no one's going to work with you. The only reason why Martha Stewart, who does not have the best actual chef recipes, is people knew about her. There was the Martha Stewart edition of everything. Your grandma probably cooks better, but if you don't have an online presence and people don't know who you are, they're not able to sign up with you. And that's why we always focus on this, is like, make yourself visible. The best things, if they're not known, they never grow. And then once you scale, because obviously you're at location 5, location 10, you're feeling good, you're driving a Lambo, you're talking to the family like I told you so. Well, we want to diversify. And what I mean by that is don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially in the industry, because things change, right? Imagine you're a taxi driver for 20 years, you're getting that gold medallion in New York, and then boom, Uber comes out of nowhere. Who knows? So get as much cash flow right now, and who knows? You're at a better position financially a year from now. Now we say, hey, there's no more banks anymore. Who cares? Because you've actually just made your cash flow. So I got a question for you. Who actually wants to see our process? Literally the process that we use, I've used across the board for years on how to build your business with this. Right? What's your comment? Residual below. Comment residual if you want to see the basics. If you don't have any comments, no problem. I'm just going to give you a quick cheat sheet and we'll do a Q&A, because I'm not seeing, I think the text blast didn't work today, because I saw there's like 700 people registered or something, but I don't know what happened. Tech issues, guys. That's how we roll. So sounds like we don't want to see the process. So what I want to do is actually go straight into what I call the Q&A, right? So I want to break down Q&A on exactly, right? A Q&A on exactly what this needs to be, right? And if you do want to get clarity on exactly what we do, and what I mean by that is like our process, I say the promo, but essentially how to take advantage of the tax discount for this year. It ends in about 7 days. What I want you to do is comment freedom below, comment freedom. And what I'll do is I'm going to drop the link so you guys can actually steal one of these last slots, because I think Christmas is open too. So if you're a serious business owner, you can schedule a call with myself or one of my managing team members on Christmas. But you comment that below. Until then, I want to see any questions you guys have. Any questions you guys have specifically on actually doing this, I want you to actually have. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to pull this bad boy up. Pop this bad boy. Let's pop this open. I just want to see some questions over here. I'm going to pop this open. Any questions you guys have about like the digital payment business? What I want to see is that. So the Lovables 15 process on that. So essentially, just so you guys know, like what we do specifically, it's actually super simple, right? So when it comes down to it, I'm just going to do this. Reserve. So All right. So it's actually really, really simple. I actually posted the link so you guys can reserve a call. I think it's probably like 7 left for the week. You guys can do that. It's in the comments. But our process is very, very simple. All right. First, what we do is we have our foundation phase, right? And this is a three-part system. It's you get to license it, get to do whatever you want within reason. Okay. Don't go real crazy because I gotta warn myself sometimes on the internet because I was that guy back in the day. But essentially it's a super simple process, right? So what that looks like is we have a team member that'll partner with you one-on-one. We call them a growth advisor, right? You have a dedicated channel, it's just for yourself. And what that is super simple. You have a dedicated advisor that says, hey, Jeff, Chris, get them, whatever. This is what you need to do to be successful, right? And so they're going to go through some foundational phases with you. Super simple. After that, what ends up happening is you get access to our program. It's like it covers everything: contracts, this, everything you need to know for the business. Okay. After you get access to the program, there's a few basic steps. We have a checklist. Like I say, print out the checklist because we keep things so simple. We have multi-million dollar business owners as clients. It's nothing too crazy, guys. You will be able to do this. So we have a checklist on exactly what you need to do to get up and running very fast. In fact, you don't need to watch, you don't need to go through any of the program. If you just have the Zoom meetings with us, the one-on-one meetings, you'll be up and running. That's how simple we make it. Because what I found is we make things overcomplicated for no reason. So my goal is like, you don't even need to listen to me and you'll be up and running. So that's how we structure things. And then from there, what ends up happening is super simple. We'd actually send you a business starter kit. How's your first device, marketing materials, everything you need to be up and running. Then what we do is actually find you a website. So we'll actually create your online presence for you, your brand. So that way when people look you up, they see you, then you're legit. And you actually start having people reach out to you. So at this point, you're like, dang, what the heck? This is a lot of momentum. So then our best part happens, which is we find your locations. So you have an entire team that are dedicated to this. They're going to contact businesses in your area based on your zip code in your country. We'll contact businesses, make sure they're interested, screen them, set an appointment within your time frame. So we'll say Monday, this is when you're available. Friday, you're unavailable. It will be within that time frame. Then we have another call with you, one-on-one. Super simple. We go over the business. We say, hey, all right, type of business. They're doing like $300,000 a month. They're interested because of X, Y, and Z. This. These are the questions you're asked. Write this down. Here's your cheat sheet, etc. And you're probably thinking to yourself, like, I don't need any of this. But I'm telling you right now, you're going to have more questions. A week from now, when Christmas is over with and you're relaxing, you will have more questions. So that's where we go over that. And then from there, super simple. You get that first business up and running. So now you're in the pool. You're like treading water and you're like, this is feeling good. So we say, all right, how can we push you across the other edge? So we continue to find new businesses. We end up having businesses reach out to us. So as you know, just like how you probably saw a post, an ad or something, business owners see the same thing. I'll have movie theaters, peptide businesses, paramedical tattoos, everything you think of, start looking for this. So they say, hey, get them, man. I saw you online. Can you sign me up? But I want to talk to somebody. I don't have the time. I'm telling you right now, I don't have the time to talk to all these business owners. So what we do is we have a network, right? We say, I don't see any names in here. Joe Frank Moco, I can't even see that. So we have this. We have like Usella, we have Jeff, we have Chris, whatever. Hey, there's this movie theater. Hey, there's this grocery store. There's this online trading community. They need crypto payments. And we'll send them to you so that way you can sign them up. So it actually works in both our benefits because obviously on my end, I want to see you be more successful. On your end, you actually save me money from having to have employees in 50 states plus Puerto Rico as a protectorate, right? And then you start looking at international and you start to realize why it gets pretty expensive to have somebody in Europe, this. That's why usually if you're buying a Rolex or a jet or some expensive thing, they have regional people that they pay on salary. I'd prefer not to do that. So we do that. But then the other thing is advertisements because you want people to reach out to you. So we'll run your ads for you. We'll find the businesses, we'll have the ad, everything you need to actually have businesses reach out to you. So instead of you actually going to them, they start reaching out to you for more info. And it's almost like, like Jake Paul just trying to fight these little, you're trying to fight these jabs, right? Maybe that's not the best example. I should talk about something that wins, right? I wanted to say Mike Tyson, but he lost, right? But you'll have that specifically too. So ultimately, it's super simple step-by-step process to get you up and running as soon as possible. Because what I found is you don't need like the info to be successful. It's more you just need the actual accountability and the program to do it yourself. And once you get the training wheels off, you realize I could do this on my own. Will you have questions? Yes. That's why we have continual mastermind calls. Will you need us? No. Usually nobody does after. But it's the assistance that's necessary. It's kind of like your parents teaching you, or you as a parent teaching your kid, and then after a while they turn 18, they become successful, and they don't really reach out as much, but they ask for like, hey, this happened, etc. That's the point we get you to get a testimonial. More people realize we're real, and we keep going from there. So it's actually a super simple process. If this sounds like something you're interested in, what you can do is schedule a call. I think there's a few left. I want to apologize if there's not that many. We've just been slammed. It'll be with one of our team members. They will break down the business for you. They'll go over a customized game plan, about 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes that you'll have reserved available to you, answer your questions, and go over different options for you too before the end of the year. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, what you can do is click that link below, and they will take care of you probably within the next like 24 to 48 hours. Because Christmas, I'm available. I'll personally be available for calls because we don't sleep. There's no such thing as a holiday, especially when you're generating passive income, but that's an option for you. So we have another question, which is going to be, is Central America taking crypto payments that you know of? Yes, I actually have a meal prep that I was paying for. I'm in San Francisco right now, but meal prep that I was paying for in Colombia. And it's like, hey, do you want to pay with PayPal? Do you want to pay with this? Do you want to pay with this? Or pay with crypto? I'm like, crypto? What are you doing over there? She wouldn't tell me. She's like, I don't want to tell you. No, mira. So ultimately, yes, we're actually a little behind in the US. We're catching up, but this is an option too, right? The lovables. I like that. Like, nice. What fees are involved to get started? So usually we charge about 2% to the business owner. You can pass it to the customer also, but that's usually it. And you can add fees on top of that. With us, we have different options depending if you want us to completely do it for you, run your ads, all that good stuff. Or if you want to be able to do more on your own, and you're like, hey, I just want like, some structure, maybe your first location. Will typically cost at least a few $1,000s of investment to get started with us. And then we ranges all the way up to fully customized. Hey, I need a website, this. We customize it for you specifically. Do these terminals accept plastic and also, or is it just crypto? That's a really good question. So when he says plastic, guys, just so you know, we're talking about credit cards or we're talking about traditional payments. Yes. So we offer both. I've been in the space for a little while, so I know a decent amount, MCAs, cash discount, all that good stuff. So we do both. And we're actually the only one. So Square does like Bitcoin, where you have to just work with them. They're a big company. You can't build with them. We're the only ones offering both. And we just include the plastic also, as we call it, with the lovables. Because naturally what ends up happening is you talk to a business owner and they say, oh, awesome, let's do it. But what about credit cards? And you're like, oh, crap, what do I do? So we offer both. That way you're able to double dip at the same location. We actually have a lot of like business owners that are in credit cards, and they're able to do that just because of that also, right? Do your company get royalties if you get the lead for a location? Yeah, so we have a percentage that we set up. It's not royalties. You're probably thinking of like music industry, but you get the lead for a location. Wait, maybe I don't understand that question. So you would get the percentage. So I just do your company get royalties if you get the lead for a location? It would be your percentage. You're actually getting the actual percentage. And then we have cash discount or traditional, both. We do both over here. Sometimes it's called dual pricing, surcharging in Canada, etc. Catch all, do it all, baby. And I think that's actually gonna be it, guys. So with that being said, guys, like I said, we try to keep this to about 50-ish minutes. Today was a few minutes over just because we had more questions. But if this sounds like that's something that's interesting to you, I just posted a link. You can reserve a call yourself. It will disappear right after I end the stream. I'm going to be with one of the team members. You will be able to reserve a time, chat with them, answer questions, and if it makes sense, awesome. If not, no big deal either, guys. All right. So with that being said, my name is Gennam Tekel. I'm founder of Dividend Shift. Glad I was able to catch you guys on another live training. Thursdays is actually going to be Christmas. So if you are celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas to yourself. I'm out here in the Bay Area, California with family because, it's been like 8 months. New babies are born, everything I haven't seen yet. So got to, make the rounds, start kissing some foreheads and all that good stuff. But next week is going to be a very special training. Next Tuesday, 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be in Dubai. Got some really cool stuff happening. It's going to be massive. You're going to see some ads, all that good stuff. I will see you. If you did not catch the full training today, do not miss next week. Next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is like 5 a.m. local time in Dubai. we're going to be going over some crazy stuff, right? And there's probably going to be a giveaway. I'm just going to be a little secret. So catch you guys next week. Until then, enjoy the holidays, enjoy the weekend, and stay safe, and please stay healthy. Take care, guys.